Support for today's Heat Treat Radio episode is provided by the Heat Treat Buyer's Guide. Use the free online directory to find heat treat service and product providers near you. Go to www.heattreatbuyersguide.com. And welcome to Heat Treat Radio, a podcast from Heat Treat Today. Whether you're listening to us or tuning in via video on heattreattoday.com/radio, we're glad to have you. I'm sure many, if not all, of Heat Treat Radio's listeners have heard of the plus or minus 0.1 degree F AMS2750 requirement. It's a significant decision for aerospace heat treaters, and one that entails a major buy-in. Andrew Bassett, president and owner of Aerospace Testing and Pyrometry, was at the AMS2750F meeting and shares the inside scoop on this topic and what he expects for the future of the standard. This conversation jumps off of a column written by Doug Glenn, publisher of Heat Treat Today and host of this episode. You can find the column plus or minus 0.1 degree F, the debate, on www.heattreattoday.com or in Heat Treat Today's February 2023 Air and Atmosphere Furnace Systems print edition. Let's take a listen.
All right, so Andrew, wanted to talk to you today. First off, let me introduce you, right? Andrew Bassett, president, owner of Aerospace Testing and Pyrometry, somewhere in Eastern Pennsylvania. We don't know, you're on the move, what is your new address now, by the way?
We are in Easton, Pennsylvania, in 2020 Dayton Drive, so in Easton, Pennsylvania. So
there you go. I know before we hit the record button, we were talking about the historic lot you're on, but I wanted to make sure people knew that you were, where you were located. So Easton, PA. So that's great. But anyhow, Andrew, we want to talk a bit about this plus or minus 1 degree F debate that is going on. It's actually was precipitated by the column that I wrote is going to be the February issue. It isn't out as you and I are talking. It's not quite out. It'll be out in about 2 weeks. But hopefully by the time this airs, people will have had a chance to read that. Just want to talk about that debate. And I know you've been somewhat involved with it. So if you don't mind, just give our listeners a quick background on what are we talking about this plus or minus 0.1 degree F debate.
Sure. So to be honest with you, as part of the AMS2750 sub-team members, one of the questions came up during the rewrite of going back to Rev F was this 0.1 readability, kind of fixing a flaw that's been in the standard ever since the day that 2750 came out, when we were talking about accuracy requirements. And we talk about with instrumentation, for instance, you have plus or minus 2 degrees Fahrenheit, or equivalent would be 1.1 Celsius. So the 0.1 Celsius, or the 1.1 Celsius, we said, well, if your instrumentation does not show this 0.1 readability, how can you show compliance to the standards? So then it kind of morphed into other issues that we've had in the previous revisions, where we talk about, for instance, system accuracy testing. You're allowed a hard number plus or minus 3 for a class 2 furnace, or 0.3% of reading, whichever is greater. So now we have this percentage. Anything obviously over 1,000 degrees is you're going to be able to use the percentage of reading to help bring your instrumentation or your test into tolerance. So again, in that example, 1100, you're allowed 3.3 degrees. Again, if your instrumentation doesn't show this readability, again, how are you going to prove compliance? So that's where it all morphed into. And originally, the first draft that we proposed in 2750F was all instrumentation had to have 0.1 readability. And we kind of got some feedback from I don't know if you want to say feedback or pitchforks and, hammers on us about that this would be cost prohibitive. A lot of the instrumentation don't have that readability. It would be real costly to go out and try to do this. So we understood that. But at the end of the day, we said, all right, well, the recording device is your permanent record. And so that's what we're going to lean on. And we still had a lot of pushback. So we ended up putting a poll out to within AMEC and the heat treating industry to see what their opinions were. And we said the 0.1 readability, we eliminate any when it came to a percentage of reading, they would be hard tolerances. So for instance, a SAT at 3 degrees, that's what it would be, not or 0.3% of reading. And honestly, I can't remember what I did yesterday, but there was a third option that we had put out to the community at large, and it came back as the 0.1 readability for digital recorders. So that's where we ran with the 0.1 readability. So, when it was that big of an issue, we didn't make the decisions ourselves. We wanted to put it out to the rest of the community on that. And I think, my guess now, looking back at it all, is I don't think everyone really thought the whole thing through yet. And so that's kind of my guess of now people are like, okay, well, now I need to get this 0.1 readability. And again, during the meetings, we heard the issues. Is 0.1 going to really make a difference to metal? We understand that metal is pretty dumb, and no, 0.1 readability. If you show you have a load thermocouple that goes in your furnace and it reads 0.1 over the tolerance, does it fail the load? Well, no, metallurgically, we all know that's not going to happen, but there's got to be a line in the sand somewhere. So it was drawn at that. So that's a little bit of the background of the 0.1 readability.
Yeah. So basically, we're in a situation now where people are, in fact, and correct me if I'm wrong here, people are in fact potentially going to fail SATs or tests on their system because of a 0.1 reading, correct? I mean, it is possible, correct?
Yeah. So when the 0.1 readability came out in Rev F, we gave a 2-year moratorium that requirement had to, you still had 2 more years. So then when Rev G came out, exactly 2 years to the date, we still had a lot of customers coming to us, or a lot of suppliers coming back to us and says, hey, look, there's a supply shortage on these types of recorders. We need to buy some time on this. And, it ranged from another year to 10 years. And we're like, whoa, you saw this coming down the pike before, maybe you pushed it down the road, whatever. Obviously COVID put a damper on a lot of people. So we added another year. So as of June 30th of this year, 2023, that requirement's going to, is going to come into full play now. And, like it or not, that's where the standard sits today. So
you're saying June 23rd this year,
June 30th,
June 30th of this year. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. All right. That's good. No, that's good. That's good background. So I guess there were several issues that I raised in this article. First off, you've already hit on one. I understand the ability to be precise, but in most, and you've hit on it, most heat treatment applications, 1 degree is not going to make a difference, right? In fact, so why do we push for a 0.1 when 1 degree isn't even going to make a difference?
Well, we know that, and it's been discussed that way. But again, that hard line in the sand had to be drawn somewhere, and that was the direction the community wanted to go with. So that's what we went with that
right.
Way. So. We understand some metals 10 degrees not going to make a difference, but we need to have some sort of line in the sand, and that's what was drawn.
Yeah. So you get a furnace that is I want to say a classification furnace, right? That's a 5 or a 6 or whatever. I forget which ones. If it's the lower numbers that are the tighter, but you've got a furnace that's classified for ±5, right?
Well, class one would be ±5. Class 5 is 25. So
yeah, okay. So there you go. So thank you. Class 1. I was thinking it was the lower number was the tighter furnace. So class 1 ±5, and you're saying that that's all the furnace is classified for, right? So ±5. So if you get a reading of 1,000, it could be 1,005 or it could be 995. So that's the first thing. And then you're putting on top of that the whole idea of, okay, but your temperature reading has got to be down to 0.1 degree, there just seems to be some disconnect there.
We'll return in just a moment, but first, let me take 1 minute to offer you some advice from our sponsor, the Heat Treat Buyer's Guide. Use this guide to find amazing North American heat treat providers of services, equipment, and related products. The super simple search tool allows you to browse by category or just search by a product or company name. The HeatTreatBuyersGuide.com helps to streamline your purchases and expenses so you can maintain excellent results in your heat treat shop. Go to www.heattreatbuyersguide.com to start searching today. Again, that's www.heattreatbuyersguide.com. Now, back to the episode.
You also mentioned about the instrumentation. It's been pointed out to me by some of the instrumentation people that their instruments are actually only reading 4 digits or, 4 digits. So up to 99.9, okay, you can actually have a point, but it goes to 1,000 degrees. You're out of digits. You can't even read that. I mean, they can't even read that down to a point.
Correct. So that's on the recording side of things, because we went away from analog instrumentation. So the old chart papers,
Right.
That's all gone, and we required the digital recorders with that 0.1 readability as of June 30th of this year. So again, the first draft was all instrumentation. That would be your controllers, your overtemps, and we know that limitation. But everyone does have to beware of it. We still allow for this calibration of this ±2 or 0.2%.
Right.
So if you're doing a calibration, let's say on a temperature controller and a calibration point at 1600 degrees, and the instrument only reads whole numbers. So the percentage, you can use the percentage, but you would have to round it inward.
Right. Okay.
Okay, let's use 1800. That would be an easier way to do it. So I'm allowed ±2 or 3.6 degrees if I'm using the percentage of reading. But if the instrument does not read in decimal points for a controller or overtemp, you would
Right.
have to round that down to ±3.
±3, right? The 0.6 is out the window. So yeah.
Correct. So
Okay.
we like to. I shouldn't say we like to bury things in footnotes, but this was an afterthought. In one of the footnotes, in one of the tables that talks about instrumentation calibration that people need to be aware of.
Right. Okay, super good. All right, so let's just do this, because I think we got a good sense of what the situation is currently. Would you care to prognosticate about the future? I mean, what do you think this is going to stand? Do you think it'll be changed? What do you think? I realize you're speaking for yourself here, right?
Yeah. So I'm conflicted on both sides. I want to help the supply base, with this issue, but I'm also on the standards committee that writes the standards. So I think because we're so far down the road right now, this has been out for going on 3 years in June. This requirement's been out there since June. I don't see anything being rolled back on it at this point. I think that because, if we did roll it back, we have to, look at it both ways. If we did roll this back and say, all right, let's just do away with this 0.1 readability issue, we still have to worry about the people processing in Celsius. Remember, we're pretty much the only country in the world that processes Fahrenheit. So the rest of the world, has been probably following these lines all along. But if we roll this back, just think about all the people that have made that investment and moved forward on the 0.1 readability, and comes back and says, wait a minute, we just spent $100,000 on upgrading our systems, and now you're rolling it back. That's not fair to us. So I think at this point, with the ball already rolling, it'll be very interesting to see when NADCAP starts publishing out the audit findings when it comes to the pyrometry and this 0.1 readability, to see how many suppliers are being hit on this requirement, and how many. That would give us a good indication. If there's a lot of yeses on it, then obviously a lot of suppliers haven't gone down this road. My guess is, for the most part, anybody that's NADCAP accredited in heat treating, and this goes across chemical processing, coatings, and a few other commodities, I think people have caught up to this. So personally, I don't think this is going to go away. It's not going to disappear. It's going to keep going down this road, be it that way. Maybe another, if people are still struggling with getting, the types of devices in that can have that 0.1 readability, then maybe another year extension on it. But, I don't know where that is right now. I haven't gotten enough feedback from aerospace customers that, hey, I can't get the recorder. I mean, I've seen some lead times on Yokogawa and Honeywell and Eurotherms they're pretty extensive even as of today.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good. So you've got these. I just don't understand, Andrew, how it's even physically possible that companies can record something as accurately as 0.1 degree if the thermocouple, either assembly or thermocouple wire, is rated at ±2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how is that even possible that you can want somebody to be accurate down to, plus or minus 0.1 when the thing is only accurate down to up to 2?
Right. So, I mean, I get that. And we could even go a lot further with that and start talking about budgets of uncertainty. I mean, if you look at any reputable thermocouple manufacturer or instrument calibration reports that are ISO 17025, they have to list out what their measurements of uncertainty, and that gives you only the 98% confidence you're going to be within that accuracy statement. So it's, I get the whole issue of this 0.1 readability, and we in good intentions was to fix a flaw in the problem. I mean, it spiraled. I mean, we've seen where PLCs and some of these high logic controllers now, they can show the 0.1 readability, but they automatically round up at 0.5. Now, are you violating the other requirements of rounding to E29? Now, I think we closed that loophole in the standard, but you're right. I mean, it's, we were trying to do the right thing, try to fix the loophole. And really, I don't think we did. Personally, I think we gave it all that much further thought on that, except, hey, let's just make the quarters this way, and this should be okay. But,
right. No, that's good. And let's, I think, let me be clear. And I think everybody that was involved with color standards are excellent people. They're trying to do the right thing. And so no ditzing on anybody that was doing it. But I just think now when you look at it with a guy who's, for me, I'm not a furnace guy, right? I'm a publisher, right? Yeah. But when I look at it, I'm going, okay, you're asking somebody to be as accurate as 0.1 on equipment that can only do plus or minus 2. Okay. Right. That's a 4-degree swing. Right? 4-degree swing, and you're asking them to be within 0.1, basically. Okay. Maybe that's an oversimplification, but okay. Well, that's good. Andrew, I think this has been helpful. It's been good hearing from you because you're on the front line here you got one foot firmly planted in both camps,
I'm doing my best to stay in that, be the Switzerland, stay neutral with it all.
Yeah, exactly. Either that or you're going to do a very bad split in the near future as the boat moves away from the dock, one or the other. It's going to be ugly. So anyhow, I appreciate it, Andrew. You're a gentleman. Thanks for taking some time with us.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode with Andrew Bassett. Help us help others by giving Heat Treat Radio a 5-star review or a like on any platform where you are listening, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and Podbean. You can also read the transcript or access both the audio and video recording of the podcast on heattreattoday.com/radio. If you'd like to get in contact with Andrew, head over to www.atp-cal.com. You can also email me and I can put you in touch. My email is bethany@heattreattoday.com. As always, if you have a new or interesting idea that you want to hear discussed on Heat Treat Radio, let me know. Also, if you'd like to sponsor a future episode, let me know at bethany@heattreattoday.com. Heat Treat Radio is just one of the ways that Heat Treat Today tries to help you get the information you need to make good decisions. If you are looking for more information about this discussion on 0.1 readability, search 0.1, furnace classes, or AMS2750 on heattreattoday.com. You'll be sure to find several articles that hit on this standard and the discussion. Heat Treat Radio would like to thank the Heat Treat Buyer's Guide for sponsoring this episode. Use the free online directory to find Heat Treat service and product providers near you. Go to www.heattreatbuyersguide.com. This and every other episode of Heat Treat Radio is the sole property of Heat Treat Today and may not be reproduced in part or in whole without advance written permission from Heat Treat Today. And I'm Bethany Leone. Thank you for listening.